how technology has changed since I was a child. Back in the day, I had a corded phone, and for me, my childhood memory is me with my corded phone and stretching that cord throughout the house somewhere private. And today I have my cell phone. I have actually a little computer on my person that I can reference at any time, any moment. So that's probably the number one thing I think has changed. My dad had a manual typewriter, and I loved it. I loved the smell of it. I loved the sound of it. I loved the feel of it, but I didn't love the errors of it. And so he had these little whiteout strips that you would use on the manual typewriter. And then I got an electric typewriter, and it was so cool because then you had a correct button, so you could do the backspace, correct. And you didn't have that same smell and sound. And then in high school, I was introduced to a computer, and especially in college, and you had computer labs. So you didn't have your own computer at home. That was way too expensive. That was way too out there. So you'd go to computer lab, and you'd talk to the computer geeks. And they would talk down to you because you knew nothing, and they knew everything. And you had to learn how to navigate the computerized world. And I remember seeing my father transition from, because he was a business manager at a local Catholic high school, and I saw him transition from the manual typewriter to a computer. And by the time he was retired, he was in his early 70s, and he couldn't make the technological leap. I remember that he had ledgers. He would use paper ledgers, and again, I remember the smell of those paper ledgers. I remember the smell of the leather, and I absolutely loved that. And then he had to convert to computers, and he didn't know what to do. So the next person he trained up, he was like, good thing she's younger because I can't master it and she can. So I saw him age out of his own industry, and luckily he was at retirement age. Me, I had to learn then how to adjust to computers and how to use computers, and at my first official job, I had to use a Mac. I didn't know what I was doing because I'd only used computers in a computer lab before. I didn't have my own computer. Oh, I did. Finally got a computer I used for email, and email was amazing, but I found it was kind of a time suck as well, and I thought it was just easier to call people. Like, if you want to get a hold of me, just call me, talk to me. So that transition email was difficult for me, and I still don't love email, to be honest. I just don't use it a ton. I use it so much at work that I don't use it personally. So the transition to computers was challenging for me, but using a Mac I loved using a Mac. And I had a wonderful boss who was really patient with me, who taught me everything I needed to know. And basically his whole philosophy was, have fun on the computer. Don't worry, you're not going to break it. And I was constantly calling him, Tom, oh my God, I did something. No, Kathy, it's fine. Press this button, press that button, you're fine. And he was super patient, and I feel like I really learned how to navigate the computer world through him and with him. And then in my subsequent job, then I had a non-Mac. I had just a regular PC, and I hated it. And I've used PCs ever since. And that's what I do in my job, because I'm an office manager. So my job is very computer driven, and I never would have thought that I would be working probably 80 to 90% of the time on a computer. And that's where I've really seen technology shift and change my life. So that's the synopsis.
When I was in college, we had regular typewriters that had the inability to backspace, delete, and do anything. Everything had to either be totally retyped, whited out, use a carbon copy. It was miserable. Even just after I got out of college, they just had started the typewriter computers that could backspace 2 words. So technology now is great if you want to write and if you want the ability to be able to compose and change your mind. It also is a little easier to get in touch with people, and more or less better to have friends all over the world that you wouldn't have gotten a hold of with letters. You can instantly get a hold of a whole lot of people and make a lot of friends that you never knew you had.
Favorite thing about tech is the ability to interconnect solutions. So what I do is I'm a veterinary technician, so I like to be able to get records to specialists to help out kitties. and being able to move information much quicker to help out the animals faster. My least favorite thing about tech, however, is the lack of social connection. So I think people spend a lot of time on Facebook and then they forget how to talk to one another and socialize like normal human beings. So I see that happening with my nieces, who are 4 and 7, and the oldest one just got her Kindle, and so now she wants to talk to me through that instead of sitting down and actually speaking to me. So it will be interesting to see how that fluctuates the socialization in the next generation or two.
So my favorite thing about technology is the ability to be able to research anything, and also it's a lot easier to get in touch with people and keep in contact with people. My least favorite thing would be that it is very distracting, and procrastination is a very big struggle with technology around.